Yeah. Then objective 4 is solve linear equations. So the first thing is, what is an equation? Equation means you have an algebraic expression with some variable, an equal sign, and then usually another algebraic expression. So that's the definition of equation. As long as you have an equal sign and then some variables and some numbers, that becomes an equation. What's a linear equation? Linear comes from line, and it means that all your variables, the variables are usually represented by letters. All the letters have only the exponent 1. So you don't get to see x squared, y squared, w squared. You only see maybe x's, y's, w's, like that, just single exponent. So that's called a linear thing, linear equation. And then solving it means finding values for x or y that make that equation true. The way to solve for y, for example, is to put everything, every term that has y on one side and everything that does not have y on the right-hand side. And then single out the y on the left through basic operations. Yeah, is that okay? What happens if we have y squared or x squared inside the equation? That's called usually a quadratic equation. Right? It's not called a linear equation anymore. So in this pre-algebra includes solving linear equations. Yeah. And the next slide shows, I chose on purpose a slightly more complicated example just to show my point of what I mean by isolating y on one side. It's easier for me to first type it, maybe, like I think it's faster that way. So you will only see it when I finish typing everything. So wait a second, bear with me. 3y plus b. I think that's it. Yeah, does everyone see it now? Yeah, 2y minus 5, does everybody see it? Did I succeed?
Yeah.
Okay, so here again, we have a parenthesis. Let's get rid of the parentheses first, right? So again, we have 2y minus 5. So just keep it the same plus w. That's a different variable, doesn't matter. We want to solve for y. So remember, y needs to be on the left and everything else will eventually move to the right-hand side. Yeah, and then this is minus 2z. Is everybody okay here? I just did it quickly. Minus 2 times 3y, that's minus 6, because minus 2 times 3 is negative 6, and then the y stays with them. And then here is distributive rule again, minus 2 times z is negative 2z, right? So I identify y here and y here. So I said keep y on the left. How do we move this guy to the left? It's like you move it to the other side of the equation, you switch signs. Why is that? Because that's the same as adding 6y to both sides of the equation. You might have seen this in your, so negative 6y and 6y will cancel and become 0, and then you are left with 6y on the left-hand side, right? That's why they say like when you switch sides, you have to switch the sign. So it's basically a shortcut for adding the same number on both sides. Then I'm moving negative 5 to the other side, so it becomes plus 5, right? W results on left. I'm going to move it to the right-hand side, so it becomes negative w. And don't forget my negative 2z was already there, so it stays here. Okay. And then 2y and 6y are considered like terms. And so I can add them up. I get 8y. So 8y equals 5 minus w minus 2z. And now I divide both sides by 8. I'm going to get y equals 5 minus w minus 2z divided by 8. And that's it. This is my solution. I have actually solved for y. People who are not like so familiar with mathematics might feel uncomfortable because it's like, what? But we have what, w and z in this, right? But it doesn't matter. Like if my solution on the right-hand side does not include y, then I have solved for y. It's just that y also depends on these other variables. It's okay. It doesn't have to be, the solution doesn't always have to be just a number. But usually you're not going to see stuff like that. I did this on purpose just to put the w's and the z's there. But usually what you're going to have is, you might have something like this, 2y plus 4 equals to y minus 6. So only y's and numbers, and then they will ask you to solve for y, this one.
So what would that look like to solve for y?
That would be y equals to -10, right? Isn't that? Did I do it right? I'm doing it in my head. I'm not very good at doing stuff in my head, actually. So I would move y over
5.
here, right? So it's 2y.
Isn't it -5? You divide off the 2.
Yeah, no, but what about this y guy here?
But
What's the -10, right? So I think it's, so then y equals -10, right? So guys, one way to check if you got the right answer is to evaluate the expression with y equal to -10, right? You can put it back here and see if it works, yeah? 2y, if y is -10, will be -20, right? -20 plus 4, that's, how much is that? That's, sorry, I should say -16 maybe? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then -10 minus 6, that's also -16, right? So you get -16 equal -16, so it's good. You got the right answer. You can always back check. You can plug in your value found and then see if the equation holds true in the beginning. And if it does, then that means you found the right answer.